We talk about Hurricane Laura.
Okay, welcome, folks. This is the pregame show to
Hi.
Carolina Retirement Planners Happy Half Hour. We always start a minute or two early to be sure that everybody gets on in time. So you got to get to watch our pregame banter.
Amy, our master of technology, has told us that it is advantageous to get on a few minutes before start time. So here we are. And by the way, if you're listening to this, Amy, our awesome director of client services, client events, is our moderator. So whenever you are typing, we won't know that you're here unless you type something in, which is totally okay. But if you want to say hi, just type into the search bar below. But Amy does a great job, and she actually takes the questions, can respond to you, and funnels all the comments to us so we can see them. So Oh, and I just saw that Cindy's here. So welcome.
Cindy is here already. That's great. That's great. It looks like we're doing this so effortlessly. That's because we have Amy behind the scenes, dutifully slaving away at the controls. So.
Yep. Hey, Bill.
Yeah. Hey, Bill.
Thank you for joining us.
We're going to have a great show today. It's going to be a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I've actually went back to 2011 to dig out some slides on gold. It's kind of interesting, got my old things. Well, it is 4:30, so let's officially start. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Carolina Retirement Planners 11th. This is the 11th happy half hour.
I don't even have enough fingers for our happy half hour.
We got to start using toes. Can you believe this? And Sam, what are you drinking here on this fine Thursday afternoon?
So I am drinking, this is a Chevrolet. It is a white wine from the Loire Valley of France. So Chevrolet is the little region within the Loire Valley that it is from, and it is Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay. So it's like nice and zippy and refreshing, but has a little bit of body to it as well.
And as usual, although it doesn't look like it, this is herbal tea, but trust me, I will make up for it later early this evening, just to be ready. So
yeah, well, cheers. I hope that y'all have a lovely beverage of your choice and you're having a chance to unwind from your day a little bit.
Yeah, the week went by and luckily the hurricanes went elsewhere, and that one looks like a bad one. I'm glad that did not come here, but I'm sorry for the folks that it did hit.
Yeah, if anyone has seen, my heart is going out for all of the people that were in Hurricane Laura's path. The devastation looks horrible, and I am honestly though pretty relieved that wasn't us. But my heart goes out for all of the people that were in its path.
But I also see Nina has joined us.
Hey, Nina.
And Sandy, Martha, our dear wife and mother, has joined us. Martha is here. And Bill,
Bob and Val, and Jim,
James,
and Dan and Barb are here, and Rick, and Brad,
Rick, and this has got the whole crowd here as usual. It's just
just a reminder that one of the things that we do each week is we do a drawing for 2 bottles of wine. And we pretty much want any excuse that we can to put you in the drawing for the bottles of wine. I actually saw, we've already said hi to a bunch of our previous wine winners, but there's a few different ways that you can enter. You can send us an email with a question or a future topic. You can refer our happy half hour to a friend, and we work on the honor system. So if you just tell us you sent this to somebody, we'll enter you in the drawing for the next week. And Dad, tell them about the other thing. You're better at the spiel with that.
Okay, the other way to do it, and email us after you do it, is if you go down to where it says share on Facebook, you can click a thing called Watch Party. And what it does is it tells your friends you're watching us, and they have the opportunity to come and join in with you, and you can actually chat back and forth with them. Although I think when you do that, you stop chatting with us, so you can say, I always joke, you can talk about us there with your friends, you know. So and a watch party is great because it gets us a chance to meet more people and more people to listen to our hopefully useful banter as we go along here.
Yeah, hopefully y'all have been finding these, entertaining but informative, and a nice way to wrap up your little Friday. So if you have we want to be able to get this out to as many people as possible. And Lois is here, and Miranda and Matt.
Yeah, welcome everybody.
Also, Amy just informed us before we started that it is National Hamburger Day. So
National Hamburger Day, a day celebrated by cows everywhere, I'm sure.
Yep. If my husband is listening to this, Neil, if you're listening to this, that's a good hint. You should bring me back a cheeseburger today.
Yeah.
But all right, so Dad, so our topic today, we've been asking for your questions. We've been asking for your topics, and not all of the questions can fill a whole happy half hour. So we've decided that periodically we're going to do a grab bag where we're just going to kind of take as many smaller questions as we can and answer them. So if your question doesn't get answered this week, I'm so sorry. We've had so many of them. We're going to do the best to fit them in as best we can. But we're going to keep on doing this. So
yeah. So what questions do we have what are we going to work through today? What are we going to talk about? What's bubbled to the top here?
Okay, well, overwhelmingly, I would say the number one question has been about what to expect with the upcoming presidential election and what that might mean for the market, and should people be making moves in or out based on who they think is going to win.
I have the solution right here. I have the solution right here. You can join me by looking into my crystal ball, and the answer will be forthcoming. The answer will be forthcoming, and it's sort of an interesting question because you get a mixture of political and everything else. I remember when Trump got elected, everybody said the market would crash. I knew people that love Trump to pull all their money out and haven't put it back in yet, and they're like why? And when Obama got elected, it was pretty much the same thing. And actually, this is sort of an extra interesting thing. Let's see if I can share it. This is something we just did a little Googling and saw this a few weeks ago. This is from July. Apparently, the Wall Street Journal did a report, and they found that Wall Street as a whole is relatively bullish on Biden if he gets elected rather than negative. So it's hard to know what to believe. Now, I really think it isn't the election that is going to be the important thing for the market this fall. It's something else.
Can you guess what might that be, Dad?
That's the virus. I mean, we're sitting there with this virus, and it could affect it so many ways, and some good ways. I mean, can you imagine if just after the election, it was established by the medical community in a believable fashion that someone had come up with a vaccine, an effective vaccine, market would go through the roof, anticipating everything getting back to the old normal, So I don't know. Remember, most of the time when we've set up portfolios, we've set up things anticipating ups and downs. We have a bunch of the money in fixed principal products like the fixed annuities of different sorts that are immune to what the market does. And in the market, we usually put it into a portfolio that is within our tolerance for money going up and down. So, no one really knows, and the gloom and doom you hear of some, if this happens, is probably as much political hype as reality. That's kind of my outlook there. Is there's a lot of things overblown.
And we
And
did a lot of research for this question. And I could sit here and I could quote numbers to you about, on average, on average, the year leading up to the election year goes up a certain amount, and how the preceding years typically do. But we're not in an average year. We're not in an average election cycle. We do have, one of the times that the market was down during an election year was the Great Depression. Now, I'm not saying we have the Great Depression, but we have, a really significant event happening. And one of the thoughts is not so much that a presidential election will affect the market in so much as the market leading up to the election may affect the election. I think that typically if the market's going up for 3 months before an election, that the incumbent will generally win. But
this is as you all know, this is a really interesting year with all and really you should worry more about the virus. And
well, I think that ultimately, no matter who wins, that you should just be prepared for more volatility. I don't think that the volatility in the market is going to go away, and we expect to see more of that. I think we were looking at some of the S&P futures. I don't. That's
yeah. Enough of this. Mike, Chris, you can come by later and look at it. It's one of those things. What's our next question?
All right. So another question that we have gotten a number of times is about Social Security. Just how safe is Social Security? Can you be protecting yourself against any drop in the market or any drop in Social Security?
I think what I'd like to start with is what I've taught in classes for the last several years, updating it as time goes along. But then we'll look at some new things that have unfolded that are probably disturbing. So I'm going to switch to my other camera, and Sam will hide her view, so hopefully we'll just see me in a big way. Okay. Okay. Let's look at Social Security. And all these years, as you have paid into Social Security, it has gone into the Social Security Trust Fund. Now, I know people always say to me, well, I heard that they robbed the money in that fund and it's not there. They took it. And I've never found any evidence of that. There is a fund, that our Social Security dollars have been invested in. Now, it's also invested in Treasury bills that have to be paid back, and that's a whole other story. But up till now, the money going in has been bigger than the money coming out, and the fund has been growing. Starting right about now, it's supposed to be last year, but it's now expected to be 2020. We're finding that the money coming in is now smaller than the money going out, and the fund is now going to begin to shrink and get smaller. And in 2023 or 2035 rather, the fund will go to zero, and the money in will equal the money out. So in 2035, we're basically going to deplete the money, and the money they'll have to pay us will be equal to the money coming in. Now they got a pretty good idea what that is. And they know that when that occurs, there is enough income coming in to cover 75% of the required Social Security payments. And the good news is it isn't going to get worse. It's going to hold steady at that till about 2092. So for about 60 years, we're going to hit a steady state. The next question is, if we have to increase taxes to make up that difference, to allow those of us who've been promised Social Security to get it, how much do we have to increase taxes? And the answer is 2.83%. That's the tax increase it would take to make us whole. Now, that's a nice tax increase, 2.8%, but it's not 28%. So, you know, do we think that maybe taxes could go up and cover that in order to keep the ever-growing group of baby boomers? You can be the judge, but it's certainly within the realm of possibility. And there's certain other things they could do in the meantime to help fix it. They did one of them about 3 or 4 years ago when they did the new budget. They plugged some loopholes in the Social Security system, ways you could double dip and get more Social Security. In fact, my presentation on Social Security went from, like, you know, 25 minutes down to 15 minutes because we eliminated a whole bunch of, I didn't have to talk about the loopholes anymore. So I think that, you know, based on this scenario, those of us, most of the folks watching this video will probably get the Social Security they've been promised. I think there's an exception there, and that's my daughter, Sam, who's, you know, in her 30s. She may see something different. They may have to go further, get less. I think younger people where you can upset their Apple Card and note them 30 years in advance will be different than those of us who are getting Social Security or close to it. However, there's been another change. And Sam, I'll turn it back over to you to talk about that one.
Oh, I didn't know that I was talking about this. The other thing that has recently happened is there's been a lot of talk about payroll taxes and the elimination of payroll taxes, whether temporarily in order to free up some money in the economy or long term. But payroll taxes are what funds your Social Security. It is what your, you know, your salary, portion of your salary that goes to fund your Social Security for you at a later date. So the elimination of those, I think that I'm sorry, let me find his name. One of the Social Security Administration Chief Actuary, Stephen Goss, writes that Social Security would be permanently depleted by 2023 if there was hypothetical legislation that changes the payroll tax to zero. I don't know how likely that is to become something that passes. I think that it would be very unpopular. Dad, I don't know about you, but I've seen very few people, very few of our clients who their Social Security isn't a large portion of their income plan for retirement.
Yeah, well, actually, there's a bigger part of this. You know, 2/3 of the people's Social Security is more than half their income. So it'd be very unpopular, but Washington is talking about it. And I've never heard anybody say, let's eliminate the Social Security tax to stimulate the economy. But you know, these are interesting times. So that's the lowdown on Social Security.
I think that it will be there, at least for y'all. We think that you should be fairly safe. It's a very popular program. But I would, if it's something that concerns you, I would just keep an eye on it, and whenever you hear payroll taxes, know that in a way that's going to be affecting Social Security.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Next question.
So we've also been getting a lot of questions about precious metals. You know, silver and gold, are they a good buy? When should you buy them? Why should you buy them? What should you buy? Tell me what your thoughts about this are, especially with so much uncertainty, the economy. I know that there's certain people that just want to buy a bunch of gold.
It's funny. It's been about 10 years, maybe more. I used to do gold presentations over at UNCW and I did a whole presentation on gold. And let's just go look at, let me share the screen again. Let's just go look at the price history on gold. Okay. So we're going to go Um, this is the 100-year look back on the price of gold. You can see, recently, even in recent years, it ranged from 2,200. Actually, I think it was all the way up to 24 at one time, down to 4 or 5 times fluctuations in the price of gold. I mean, this is what's driving the price of gold is expectations, the market manipulations. If you're buying gold thinking you're going to make out in the long run, and gold's high right now, what you might looking at this expected in a few years it's going to be low. Remember the Hunt brothers? Silver is about the same if you look at the price history of silver. Remember the Hunt brothers manipulated silver some years ago and drove the price way up. I often liken it to, there's a saying that if you get into a poker game and in 15 minutes you don't know who the patsy is, you're the patsy. And that's often it in the case of gold, especially when you get those people on TV and all that are trying to sell you gold because they're going to make a bunch of money on that sale. And they're swearing up and down that you'll be saved by gold. There is, even back here into the 30s, there were equally big swings. There is a two ways. When I used to give the class, I talk about the 2 reasons to buy gold. One is you speculate on the gold going up and down. And we actually have some funds, the Milliman strategies and others use gold as one of their things that they move into and out of based upon some metrics that they've worked out. But the other cute little story is when I got out of college, I went to school in Ithaca. I went down the road to Corning to Corning, New York to work. And I remember sitting there on the mattress on the floor in my apartment, just right out of school. And in 1978,
sitting on the mattress.
Yeah.
Was it on the floor, Dad?
It was on the floor. What can I say?
Was it a real mattress?
That one might have been. I'm not sure. I didn't really have a mattress till I got married. I have no defense. But
yeah, my mom likes to joke, Sandy, if you're listening, she likes to joke about how when she met him in their 30s, that he was sleeping on a 4-inch piece of foam on the ground.
Yeah, anyway.
The life of an engineer.
I was sitting there on this mattress on the floor in Addison in my apartment, and I was reading Andrew Tobias's the only investment guide you'll ever need. You may remember him. And in that guide, he said you should put 5% of your money into gold. So if there's hyperinflation, you'll be protected. I always thought that was kind of interesting, and it is true that in times, if you go back to the Weimar Republic and all the hyperinflation, gold would really go up in value for those folks. Well, this is an article in 2011 I used inside the presentation I gave. It turns out that at least back then, the second biggest college endowment in the country was the University of Texas, all that oil money. The biggest endowment, of course, was Harvard. And there was an article how the University of Texas had put about 1 billion of its 20 billion in gold, about 5% of their portfolio into gold. It was sitting in gold bullion. They bought bullion, not gold shares. And it was sitting in a vault in New York City. And
I like that. In an undisclosed location underground in New York City,
in an undisclosed
987 million worth of gold bars.
And they did it as a currency hedge. In other words, if the dollar crashed, they'd have the gold to save them. What's interesting is a few years later, 2015 or so, they actually moved the gold bullion itself from New York City to Texas. They wanted to have the bullion on their own property. So there's a little story. So I tell people that if you are if you wonder, should you buy gold? How much gold can I buy? And I'm not crazy. I say you can put up to 5% of your money into gold. You should do small denominations of coins or things that are marketable, just in case, there's blood in the streets, things really go bad. That's your parachute gold that will save you. If you're putting 40% of your money in, then there's something wrong. So that's my little thing on gold. We're pressing up against the half hour. Let's go see if we can do a couple more questions.
Then I've got some quick fire questions. Robert wants to know, is it possible to move retirement money, IRA money, or qualified money from one account to another without tax consequences? Yeah. For example, if you have it in an S&P index fund, could you move it into a CD without incurring tax?
Yes, if you have IRA money or 401k money, 403b money for that matter, 457 money, you can move it pretty much anywhere you want, but you have to do it right. And ideally, you'll never take possession of it. It'll go from one institution to another. There'll be no 60-day rule. It eliminates all the problems there. But you can go down to your credit union and take that money and put it into a CD. You can put it into a money market. You don't have to be in stocks.
But you just need to make sure that you are still in a qualified account. So it would be an IRA CD.
If you want to do that, call us and we'll help walk you through it or help you do that. So you have now there's a few things that's very difficult to put money in. Real estate can be very difficult. Gold you can put it in, but there's some more hoops you got to jump through. You have to have a separate depository that it's in, that but most common investments, no problem. So
now Ricky wants to know, can I contribute post-tax funds to my Roth IRA if I'm over 65 and officially retired?
In order to put new money into an IRA or a Roth IRA, you have to be working. You have to have a W-2. You have to have a salary.
Earned income.
Earned income. That's where we used the example the other week where your grandchildren, if they had a paper route, you could put, they reported income. You could do a Roth with it. However, at any age, you can take money that's in an IRA and move it to a Roth. And in fact, at the website, rogo.com, rogo.com, there's a couple videos on that'll teach you all the tricks to that. And if that's of interest, call us. Again, we can help with that. But you can transfer IRA money to a Roth. You just can't put new money into a Roth. And I'll tell you, the 5-year rule gets very different when you're over 60. I won't go through all those rules now, but you can have access to most of the money without waiting 5 years or any time at all if you've had a Roth for a while. So
if you are not working, if you are retired, you cannot contribute to a Roth IRA, but you could do a Roth conversion. Now, this is on the same grain. Rich wants to know, since the requirement for taking an RMD has been suspended this year, and we've kind of tried to pummel you with that information all year, you do not have to take an RMD in 2020. He's saying, is this a good time to instead take a withdrawal of an equal amount or more and roll it into a Roth? So essentially he's saying, if instead of taking your RMD, should I do a Roth conversion with that money instead?
Absolutely. When you think about it, even if you're in a relatively high bracket, you're going to be there next year too. You're taking that money out every year at that bracket. If you can take it out and put the remainder or even the whole amount, if you have some other money, into a tax-free vehicle that'll be tax-free forevermore, it's very wise to do that, and probably wise to do even more. And we've got the calculators we built to help optimize that. So yes, you should.
If you poke around the website, rogo.com, rogo.com, we have some, a lot of videos on there about Roth conversions. All right, quick fire. Jennifer, is one still required to begin taking money out of your IRAs at 70? Essentially, she's going to be turning 70 in November and wants to know when she has to start taking her RMDs.
You do not have to take RMDs to 72.
Yep.
So As long as you were, I think,
And it's
70 and a
insurance.
half, if you turn 70 and a half this year, you're good. You can
Yep.
wait to 72.
And this is my very last question. I thought that this was a funny one. Mark wanted to know, why should I leave anything to my children when I pass? Shouldn't I spend it all?
And you know, that's a matter of personal choice. One of the reasons we do retirement plans and we look at the money going out 30 years is because some people, they want to leave a lot to the kids, or maybe they have a disabled kid that they need to be sure they're taken care of, or they want to make sure their kids are left with in a good place because they're not doing well now, or the economy. And then other folks really kind of want the undertaker's check to bounce, you know, and that's why we try to figure out what you want and arrange your plan accordingly. So, you know, it's up to you. And most people say, hey, I put them through college, I did everything, I want them to get what's left, but I'm not trying to build a big chunk for them, but some do. So it's your choice.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well,
So
it is
right here at the mark.
It's time for what now?
It's time for our weekly wine drawing, which we are very excited about. So we had, in addition to all of the people who had already who had sent us questions, we have the people who responded to our email last week where we had made an error. And so we've got a lot of names today. I made all new slips too. Okay. Our winner today is Martha M.
Martha M. Congratulations.
And I know you were here.
She's been a regular person as well. And you know, we have not figured out what we're going to talk about next week, have we? We got to do that. So I don't
know if we're going to talk about this next week, but we did realize that we have a lot of questions about life insurance and, hey, if I'm over 60, why would I need it? So rather than trying to address little questions about it, we are going to devote a happy half hour to that. But I don't know if that's next week. Dad, did you have another idea for next week?
Boy, I got so many ideas. You know, I ought to run how to pay the most in taxes. I haven't done that yet. That's a shocker. That's a shocker.
Well, stay tuned. We'll let you know for sure.
We'll let you, whatever it is, it will be good. Thank you all for coming. We wish we had time. We don't have time to thank everybody who came in the last few minutes, but tell your friends about us for next week, and you know, get your questions in or refer us out and send the things so you can get in the drawing. And
we want to give you wine.
Yeah, for our 12th coming up, a dozen happy half hours.
Absolutely. And congratulations, Martha.
Have a good weekend and a good week.
And cheers.
Cheers.